I am Latisha Johnson. I'm the District 4 City Council representative for this area. And if you all know and have followed our monthly meetings, we like to take our show on the road. We go throughout the entire district to make sure all of our constituents have access to us and that they have access to the information that we like to share with everyone. And we always encourage you to not only just get the information for yourself, but to make sure that you share it with others. This evening we are talking about property taxes, how to avoid property tax foreclosure, and for easily a decade prior to me being in an elected position, I have actually been on the ground just sharing information because I think it's vitally important to retain all of our residents, to help them to make sure they're aware of the resources that are available to them relative to property taxes. I've been, and Treasurer Sabri may not remember that a number of years ago, as a member of my neighborhood association, we were in a meeting room with him and folks from the administration, just making sure that we were communicating outward to residents to make sure they had access to this information. So we had always talked about having it in your water bill because everybody gets a water bill, right? And there was no additional postage required to share the information around property tax exemptions for those that would qualify, but also to know about the various payment programs that the county has available for our residents. So I think it's important to make sure that we provide this support to sustain our communities before we can actually continue to grow them. And so this evening we have two amazing speakers. We're going to get started with Mr. Downwell, who is the director of the Board of Review. Many of you have seen Mr. Downwell around in the years. He's been with the city for a long time and has a wealth of knowledge, not only about property taxes, assessment, but probably my entire job as well. So we appreciate Mr. Downwell and all of the information that he has in his pinky finger and that he's willing to share with us. But he has a heart of gold and wants to make sure that we keep residents in our properties as best we possibly can. And so I always think it's important to make sure that you talk to people that you know and love because the information will resonate coming from you more than perhaps coming from me. So people may hear me talk about it, but don't realize the resources that they have available to them unless someone that they know is sharing that information with them in a way that they receive it. And so again, I ask that we all share this information because we know the March deadline is coming up. My team and I will be out canvassing throughout the district as we have been able to get the support of a number of community organizations throughout the district to make sure that we're going door to door to those properties that may be in jeopardy of losing their property. But our goal is to get them signed up in a payment agreement and to make sure they know about the exemption information, the application, and if they qualify that they are applying for that, because the worst thing we want to see is a resident or a family potentially losing their home and they could have been exempt from paying property taxes. So again, please make sure you share the information. And with that, I'd like to welcome up Mr. Willie Downwell, the Director of the Board of Review.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. I'm just going to say this really quickly. This community did a really good job by electing Latisha Johnson as your council member. She works hard every day, and she holds people accountable. She has a very nice, polite, but very direct way of letting you know you need to get something done. And I haven't, but only but one time, been on the other end of that conversation and haven't been on it since. So, but I think it's important to know that she is a very, very knowledgeable and effective public official working very hard for you. Again, my name is Willie Donwell. I'm the Director of the Property Assessment Board of Review. One of the key things that I believe in, and since I'm in the Church of God, I want you to understand that I believe in God. He is the head of my life, and all the things that I do, I try to walk in his footstep. So today I'm going to start off with a brief scripture before I get started. Proverbs tells us that a good person leaves an inheritance to their children's children. And when we start talking about property, our investments in property, it is one of the biggest investments that we're going to make, right? What you leave for somebody isn't always about money. It's about legacy. It's about character. It's about the idea that you can continue to grow. And the most important part, be educated. Become educated about what you have. That is the biggest part about your legacy that you can have. So we're going to talk about this evening property taxes and those things that you should know, be aware of, and understand what your responsibility is, and those things that you need to make sure that you're paying attention to as relates to your property assessments. So just some general clarification. The Board of Review is not the assessor. It's not what the Board of Review does. The Board of Review hears appeals. The responsibility of the Board of Review and its authority is limited under the General Property Tax Act. The Board of Review is required to follow guidance and rulings provided by the State Tax Commission, Michigan Tax Tribunal, City of Detroit ordinances, policies, and procedures. I'm going to ask that you hold your questions, and I'll be happy to ask them at the end. But your engagement is very, very important, because your engagement is how we create process. Your engagement is how we work with you to make sure that you're receiving the services that you deserve. So what is the Board of Review? The Board of Review is a 9-member body appointed by City Council to determine appeals along with certain other matters concerning real and personal property assessments and or classifications. An assessment is just simply the value of something. An assessment is the value of something. A classification is what it's determined to be: residential, commercial, industrial, cell phone towers, agricultural. The Board of Review represents a cross-section of the community and should be residents of the City of Detroit. One from each of the 7 council districts and 2 at large, just like City Council. The Board of Review is appointed for 2-year terms, beginning an odd number year. So the current seated Board of Review's term ends on December 31st, 2024, and a new board will be seated on January 1, 2025, and will be again seated through the end of 2026. The Board of Review has 3 time periods during the year when its decisions are officially confirmed. It is the March Board of Review, which is the first Monday in April. It is the July Board of Review, which is the Tuesday following the third Monday in July, and the December Board of Review, which is the Tuesday following the second Monday in December. So this year, the July Board of Review is July the 16th. The December Board of Review is December the 11th. So who's on the Board of Review? So again, each of these individuals either are appointed by a council member that's at large, or they live in the particular district. Lewis Moore, who is the current chair, lives in District 1. Jacqueline Robinson lives in Lewis Moore lives in District 7. Jacqueline Robinson lives in District 1. Geraldine Chapman is appointed at large. Latasha Patman is appointed at large. Marcus Twyman lives in District 2. Danielle January lives in District 3. I'm sure a lot of you know Teresa Dubose, who lives in District 4, and Maria Muhammad, who lives in District 5. We are currently looking for a District 6 representative. If you know anyone who lives in District 6, send me their resume. Their resume will be forwarded to Council Member Gabriela Santiago Ramiro, and they would actually, to get appointed to the board, you actually go through a process of a couple of different interviews, including being interviewed by the Internal Operations Committee, which Council Member Johnson is the chair. So, we're going to go through some how to appeal your assessment. The very, very important thing first that I want you to remember: you do not have to receive an assessment notice to appeal your assessment. You do not have to receive an assessment notice to appeal your assessment. You can just simply contact the Office of the Assessor and say, what is my current assessment? And then you can say, I don't agree with that and I want to appeal it. It is really just that simple. And it should be that simple with every community that you do this with. The state law does not require you to have an assessment notice to file an appeal. So we're going to cover a couple of things as it relates to some technical aspects. First, Article 9, Section 3 is the section of the state constitution which requires that property is assessed no more than 50% of its true cash value. So what I have in this first line is the actual legal term of what's written in Article 9, Section 3 of the state constitution, because it gives you all three components. The first component is dealing with the fact that your state legislators will put together the state law pretty much in terms of how properties will be assessed, and then that properties will be assessed at no more than 50% of the true cash value, and then finally a equalization process will exist to make sure that everyone is assessed fairly. And so we're going to cover a couple of other important things that you should know. Proposal A. Proposal A was voted into effect on March the 15th of 1994. It implemented cap value. It's the thing that after you buy a property allows for your taxable value to only increase by the rate of inflation no more than 5%. So if you look at your assessment notice and you see that your assessment notice may say $80,000 and your taxable value only says $30,000, that's because at one point your assessed value was around $30,000 and your taxable value can only increase by the rate of inflation no more than 5% each year. All right, true cash value is defined as the usual selling price. The statement within state law is much longer than those three words. But usual selling price at a place and time when an individual, willing seller and willing buyer, made an agreement for somebody to sell the property and somebody to purchase the property. This does not account for distressed properties or short sales or anything like that. This is specific to arm's length transactions. So this is how the office, part of the tools that the office assessor uses when they are determining the value of your property. They're looking at arm's length transactions, properties that were sold, again, warranty deeds, covenant deeds, other types of transactions where there was a willing seller, a willing buyer, and there was typically no distress or any special arrangements that were involved in the sale of the property. There's the assessed value. Again, 50% of the parcel's true cash value. So if the parcel has an assessed value of $100,000, then has a true cash value of $100,000, then the assessment should be $50,000. If it has a true cash value of $100,000, then the assessment should be $50,000. We're going to talk briefly a little bit later about how you get to that $100,000 and then ultimately $50,000, because there is some detail that goes along with that. All right, state equalized value. It's the assessed value after state equalized value is completed. Just real briefly, this is how it's done. ABC, assessed value, budget, and calculation. The same time that the Board of Review is meeting and the county equalization happens and then state equalization through March, April, and May, local municipalities are meeting and they're talking about their budgets. And they're talking about how much they're going to spend and where dollars are going to go. And then at the end of both of those processes, there's a calculation that determines whether or not there is enough money within the city's upcoming tax obligation that they're going to provide to you to cover all of the expenses. ABC, assessments, budget, calculations. And at that particular point, you'll be levied as of July 1 to make sure the city is able to cover all of its debt and services. And then taxable value is the lesser of the SEV or cap value. Here's the real short version of that. The taxable value is the number you should be looking at. The taxable value is the number you should be looking at because that's how you're taxed. That's the number that's multiplied against the millage rate to determine how much tax you're going to pay. So if you have an assessment notice that says $100,000 assessed, do not use that number to multiply against the millage rate because you'll make yourself upset. Unless the a taxable value says $100,000, then you may have a little issue to deal with. But the taxable value is the number that you want to look at in terms of determining how much tax you're going to pay. So, how you want to appeal starts with the assessor's review. There was a change in city ordinance just last year, the end of November. City Council placed into effect certain key changes that how the process currently works. The assessor review is no longer required. The assessor review is no longer required. However, I still believe it's a good option, and here's why. There's a number of things that you can do at the assessor's review where you would not have to come to the March Board of Review. So, perfect example, let's say there was an error in the uncapping of your property. And let's say it was transferred between related parties, and they uncapped the property unknowingly that it was transferred between related parties. Well, that can get fixed at the assessor's review. It can get fixed at the assessor's review, and if that's your only issue, you don't have to come to the March Board of Review. Or let's say you had a combination or split. Combinations and splits, there's no cost to do it, and this is something that is done through the Land Maintenance Division of the Assessor's Office. Typically, they simply bring them to the Board of Review to actually have them confirmed during the March time period. But nobody from the Board of Review is sitting down and reading and writing legal descriptions and changing the legal description and making any other action that is that's truly going to affect that combination or split. That is specifically done through the land maintenance section of the Office of the Assessor, right? So here's a couple of good reasons to, if you have something to address with the through this process, use the opportunity of the assessor's review to get it done. Use the opportunity for the assessor's office to actually take care of these things for you. And then finally, the assessor's review provides an informal opportunity for you to get information about how your property was assessed. You can get the record card. You can get a copy of their sales study that they use to determine the value of your property. And you can ask as many questions as you want in order to find out how your property was assessed. So it's a really good tool to utilize. The value placed on the property is tentative. It's tentative until it goes through the process of state equalized value. So until it goes through the process of touching the Board of Review, then county equalization and state equalization, everything is still tentative. So it will not be confirmed until May. Once available in 2024, you'll be able to file an appeal in person or online. You can do it at the Detroit Tax Service Center, or there's a portal online where you can file an appeal through the Office of the Assessor. You do not need to appeal to the Assessor's Review in order to appeal to the March Board of Review. This is really important. This part is really, really important. I know that sometimes, we remember how things were. And again, this is how they were. You do not need to file an appeal to the Assessor's Review to file to the March Board of Review. But you have to file it by the March Board of Review deadline, which this year is March the 11th, and it's 4:30 p.m. is the deadline time. The Assessor Review is an informal process. Be prepared to present why you disagree, and just share with them why you disagree, that you believe that the assessment is unfair. Disclose the issues with your property. And listen, write everything down. I don't care if it's chipping paint or whether or not you have a structural damage in the basement. And they'll talk about deferred maintenance and all these other technical terms. But what I want you to understand is, don't allow something that you may think they're not going to count to get away from you actually getting the assistance that you need with your property. Don't say that, well, that garage was torn down years ago and I'm not going to bring it up. A garage being torn down, if that garage is still on the assessment on your property, directly affects your taxable value. So not just the assessment, it affects the taxable value because it's a structure that is an improvement on the land in which the parcel sits, right? So make sure that you don't leave anything out. And then as it relates to commercial, industrial, personal property, they don't have to come to either the assessor review or March Board of Review. They can file directly to the Michigan Tax Tribunal, but it has to be filed by May 31st. I always recommend, especially our small businesses, to come to the Board of Review. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can help. Because what we want to do is make sure that our small businesses have the opportunity to, one, be able to stay in business, but at the same time have a place of comfort and respect to go to have their issues discussed as it relates to the valuing of their property. That's what the Board of Review is there for. It's not just to say, yeah, you're going to get it, no, you're not going to get it. We want to make sure that at the Board of Review, you're able to share whatever issue that you're dealing with and allow us the opportunity to help you resolve that issue. All right, so how to appeal to the March Board of Review. Begins Tuesday following the first Monday in March. This year, the Board of Review, the organizational meeting is March the 5th. And actually, if you go to the city's website and go to the Board of Review and go to our main page, we have 3 locations on that page, the top, the middle, and the bottom, where you can click into our meetings. So if we have a meeting on any particular day, you can click on that button and you can get right into that meeting. You don't have to sit in a waiting room. It's just like watching city council on one of the cable channels. You go straight to the meeting. There's no waiting room. There's no I got to do it. There's something extra or anything like that at all. You do have to have Zoom because our meetings are viewed through Zoom. But other than that, you can get straight to the meeting. Right? You're not required to file. You're not required again to file an appeal to the assessor's review, and I'm saying this repeatedly because I need people to understand what you don't have to do. What you don't have to do in order to make sure that you're able to get the services that you're looking for, not just from the Board of Review, but from the city of Detroit in general. Right? We have a responsibility as individuals who sit in these roles to make sure that you know and understand what your rights and opportunities are. Right? You are required to have completed and signed an L-4035. So that is the Michigan State form petition to the Board of Review. We call it a green sheet because we just simply print it on green paper. But it is on the state of, it's on, if you Google it, you can Google Michigan L-4035 and you can print it out, you can complete it, and you can send it in. You can submit it by email, you can submit it by mail, you can drop it off and have it stamped in. But we provide a lot of simple ways for you to be able to provide this, the petition. If you have a representative, we have to have a signed letter of authorization or engagement letter or something that allows them to represent you prior to the hearing date. We have to have that prior to the hearing date, or we are not going to allow them to speak for you. Because if you go, I don't care where you go, if you go to court, you know, if you go anywhere and someone is going to speak for you, if they don't have proper documentation, they're not going to be able to speak for you. So this is very, very important to understand that letter of authorization is required to be on file with the Office of the Assessor and the Board of Review prior to your hearing date. All right? And again, evidence. Provide everything, any type of documentation that you have. We would like to have it at least 48 hours before your hearing so that we can have a chance to look through it. But if you have pictures, estimates, sales studies, comparisons, whatever you have, submit that information to the Board of Review so we can be able to take a look at it. This way, when you come in front of the board, because you're only going to have a limited time to speak. You're only going to have a limited time to speak. But the board will have had time to review the information prior to you coming in. It's one of the things that I'm making sure that the Board of Review has access to and actually does, so that whatever board members that you will be in front of on that particular day, they should be very well versed and knowledgeable about your particular property if you submitted documentation or evidence. Right? And then if you have 6 or more appeals, there are more convenient ways for you to file, which we have on the website, and then submit supporting documentation on why you are filing an appeal to the March Board of Review. It's very, very important that you're pretty clear on why you are appealing to the board. And then, if you're not satisfied with the board review decision, you have the right to appeal to the Michigan Tax Tribunal. Michigan Tax Tribunal is an administrative hearing, does administrative type hearing. So it is an actual court. There will be a hearing officer, and there will be yourself, and if you have a representative, and there will be the city of Detroit, and the city of Detroit will be defending its values, and it is up to you to be able to defend the value that you believe that your property should be at. It is important, it is very, very important that you are very, very clear on what it is that you're trying to convey to the tribunal, because the tribunal is just like going to court. That hearing officer is a judge, and they're going to be sitting and listening, and they're going to be determining things based upon very, very specifically the rules that are set down by the State Tax Commission, the General Property Tax Act, and other matters concerning the law as it relates to how your property is valued. So you want to make sure that you're able to present very, very clearly that what's wrong with your property. I'm going to say this, and it's very important. I hope everybody hears exactly what I'm saying. In the sales study process, the Office of the Assessor goes to and uses value based upon sales. How many people have the Office of the Assessor actually came out to their house and looked in their basement and actually determined what type of windows they have and wanted to ask questions about your house? They probably haven't actually done that unless you've actually asked them to come out, right? So they use a sales study. They may not necessarily know what's actually going on inside of your property. So that's why it's so, so important to make sure that you write down, get estimates, and share those issues that's going on with your home. Because if you have to go to the tribunal, this is what you're going to wind up doing anyway. So let's save us all some steps. Let's get it right at the local level so that we don't have to go through those additional steps with dealing with the tribunal. But also remember, it's your right, and nobody can ever take that right away from you. So if you believe you need to go to the tribunal, please file. The other and last important part about the tribunal, because again, it is a court, under certain factors, if there is something that under the law or certain inconsistencies, you can actually file an appeal to the Michigan Court of Appeals, right? So when you think about it, from the assessor's review, if you follow all the steps and you feel like, somebody has gotten this wrong, you can actually end up at the Michigan Court of Appeals. And there have been cases that have been won at the Michigan Court of Appeals. There was a case won last year relative to interest. A woman who her husband died and she was not on the deed. It was determined by the Michigan Court of Appeals that she had interest in the property, and that interest should have allowed her to appeal that property, right? So this is a court of appeals ruling now. So again, make sure that whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish, that you're able to convey very clearly. All right, so I'm going to wrap up on assessments and then move on to the homeowner's exemption. So again, on assessments is the very, very first part. It's the very, very first part of taxation. If you can get your assessment at a value that you can actually afford to pay, that's in the realm of where it's supposed to be, the likelihood of you winding up in tax foreclosure is reduced greatly, because now you're actually able to afford to pay the taxes, the property is valued properly, and you're able to keep the property from headed towards tax foreclosure. Again, we're talking about legacy. How do we manage the process? We manage the process by being educated, understanding what it is, and moving forward into a path that allows us to maintain that property. And so what if we run into a situation where we're struggling? We can't pay the property taxes. We run into issues. We lost our job, and a couple years ago we had a really good job. Now here we are 2 years later. We don't have that same income. We've gone from working at GM to Burger King. And I'm saying it because it's actually happened. right? This is just life. It's what goes on sometimes. And so we have to understand that there are processes out there to be able to help us. And one of those processes is the homeowner's property tax exemption. The homeowner's property exemption provides an opportunity for reduction or elimination of current year property taxes in accordance with MCL 2117U. And the reason why I always make sure that in some of these things where I talk about the statute, I need you to understand that this is something that is available throughout the state of Michigan. It's available throughout the state of Michigan. It's called HOPE within the city of Detroit because that's what City Council approved it to be named, but the poverty exemption is available in every municipality throughout the state of Michigan, and they have to offer it. Every municipality has to offer this process. So I'm saying that if you know someone in another municipality that is struggling with their property taxes, please share this information with them. All right, homeowners must apply each year. The assistance is needed in which they're seeking relief. Only the Board of Review can make a determination on the disposition of an application. The City of Detroit adopted the name Homeowners Property Tax Exemption, and this was in 2018. This year, November 1st, 2024 is the deadline for submitting applications. November 1st, 2024 is the deadline for submitting HOPE applications. All right. In 2018, City Council codified an ordinance certain practices for the City of Detroit Board of Review to follow. This is really important because what you want to do is make sure that whatever the Board of Review is doing is consistent. And sometimes you need to put policy in the law. You need to put policy in the law to make sure everybody's doing the same thing. So this way, you can rest assured that whoever sits on the Board of Review, if the Board of Review changes tomorrow and God willing, I'm going to be there as long as I can, but at some point I'm going to be leaving, right? But we want to make sure that whatever process is there is able to be done and completed properly, and that the community is able to be served. That's one of the most key things that changing the ordinance did in 2018. And then the responsibility of the Board of Review is to determine a property owner's ability to meet their property tax obligation, right? So what do you need to apply? Own and occupy the property as your principal residence. It's the very first part of the statute. Own and occupy the property as your principal residence. Submit a 5737 and 5739. So it's a part of the HOPE application packet for the City of Detroit. But the 37 and the 39 are the state forms that if you need to file in any other municipality, because there's only one application that can be used. His form is 5737 and 5739. All right. Submit all supporting documentation. Every municipality has a approved process that was adopted by resolution by their local council or governing body so that the Board of Review has a guideline to follow. All right, and then along with that, you want to be able to provide for the City of Detroit proof of ownership, whether it's a deed, land contract, court order, whatever documentation that you have that's been filed with the Wayne County Register of Deeds. You want to be able to produce current identification that shows the subject property for all adults in the household. You want to produce evidence for all household members under the age of 18, so it can be report cards, they can be on the tax return, if they're on an FIA statement. There's a lot of ways that you can provide evidence that the minor children in a household. We want to see the full amount of the 2023 source of income, and that starts with a tax return. If you do not have a tax return, or if you're not required to file taxes actually, then you can submit a poverty exemption affidavit, which again is a Michigan Treasury Form 4988, and then proof of income for all household members. The great part about what we're dealing with right now, you still have to provide the 2023 income, but if you haven't filed your taxes yet, produce the 2023 income and you can actually use your 2022 tax return. State law allows the Board of Review to consider the tax return from the immediately preceding year, but we still have to have the income for the prior year, which is 2023. All right, and then applications are available all over the place. Applications are available at the City County Building. We have them in a rack in the Detroit Tax Service Center. You don't even have to ask anybody. It's available online at detroitmi.gov. You can actually complete it and download it online. You can also submit it online. So there's two different ways online you can deal with the application. You can call in 224-3035. You can send, request one by email to be mailed to you by the Board of Review at detroitmi.gov. But here's one of the best ways that I believe that we have to help homeowners with this application process. We have a large amount of community partners. We have a large amount of community partners from UCHC to USNAPBAC to Accounting Aid Society to Greater Quinn AME and Wayne Metro, a whole list of community partners that's on the City of Detroit website that you can make an appointment with, that you can actually sit down with someone and actually have them help you submit the application, and they'll submit the application electronically for you. So then that application comes straight away to the Board of Review. It gets to the board and we can get it processed. Make sure that you have given them all of the necessary documentation, because if the application is deficient, it will be delayed. Okay, so make sure that whatever it is that they're helping you with, have that completed application submitted. And then you can actually call our partners list to make an appointment at 244-0274. And also on the same City of Detroit website at detroitmi.gov/hope is a link for you to go to actually be able to schedule an appointment. So we try to make this thing as convenient as possible. And again, I'm sharing this information because even if it's not you, if it's someone that you may know that needs this assistance, please share this information with them. One of the key things that's still going on right now is the PAYS program. And I'm sure Treasurer Sabri is going to talk more about it from their side, from the Wayne County Treasurer, because we only deal with it from the HOPE approval. But I'm just going to share with you some important points as it relates to the PAYS program. Pay As You Stay was first enacted in the law right before COVID in March of 2020. It's the first time that any type of retroactive process has become available to help homeowners with back taxes. It allows for a homeowner to receive a reduction in the amount of back taxes owing to no more than 10% of the taxable value of the property or the amount of taxes owing, whichever is less. So I'm going to give you an actual story and not going to mention any names. So young lady, her mom passed and the mom left her the house, but she had to go through probate to get it. By the time she got done, there were $18,000 in back taxes owing. She worked at Burger King. There was no way working at Burger King she was going to be able to keep that house. So the benefit for her was she was able to submit an application. The application was approved, and she received a 100% exemption from the City of Detroit. So it reduced the amount of taxes owing to the city from whatever that dollar amount was to $120. But here's some exact numbers on how it affected that $18,000 that she owed Wayne County. It reduced it from $18,000 to $1,059 to $1,059 because her taxable value was $10,590. So, and the $1,059 was paid off by the Detroit Tax Relief Fund. So she actually only had to pay $120, and she was able to stay in the house. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. It's not about money. It's about education. It's about using opportunity, and it's about taking advantage of those things that we have to be able to get us through the process on the day-to-day basis. The City of Detroit does not manage the PAYS program by state law as a part of 78M of the General Property Tax Act, which requires the process to be managed by the local treasurer. Our local treasurer, Eric Sabri, does a phenomenal job of managing that process. We've worked together over the past several years, and we've been able to save over 12,000 homes from property tax foreclosure using the PAYS program. so it works. But you have to give everybody engaged credit, right? So you have the Board of Review who processes the applications. We send the data over to the Wayne County Treasurer. The Wayne County Treasurer has to vet the information and make sure that the individual meets all the proper standards for them to be entered into the program, and then the Detroit Tax Relief Fund pays off the balance. This is the one thing that I'm going to give the Gilbert Family Foundation and the Rocket Community Fund credit for. When they committed how much ever money that they said that they were going to commit to the city of Detroit, the first $15 million came to this program to pay off people through the PAYS program. So we still have a little bit of money left, and we want to make sure that if there's anybody out there that is facing tax foreclosure in March 31 of this year, they need to get a HOPE application to us straight away. Through the tremendous work that City Council has done in working with the Board of Review in the state of Michigan, we have what's called a 10% exemption. And it allows for individuals that's at a high income level to be able to still receive a 10% exemption. So they'll still be responsible for 90% of their taxes locally, right? But if they owe back taxes, it will allow them to get into the PAYS program to stay in their home. That information is available again on the city's website, and we have all the income guidelines available there. All right, so last couple things I want to mention is just some general information about ways to reduce or manage your property tax obligation. First is the assessment appeals that I was just talking about earlier. You want to go through the process at least once. You want to go through the process at least once to understand how your property is assessed and how you're ultimately taxed. And it actually gives you an opportunity to find that out before the taxation process happens. All right, the assessor review, February 1st to the 22nd. So you still have until Thursday to file an appeal to the assessor review, but it's not required. It is not required. I still think you should, if nothing else, go through the process to understand what it is and how it will be able to assist you. The March Board Review begins the Tuesday following the first Monday in March. The deadline, again, for the March Board Review to file to the March Board Review is Monday, March the 11th at 4:30 p.m. If you are a homeowner, principal residence exemption. Principal residence exemption reduces your property tax obligation by up to 18 millage points. It is the reason that Proposal A, or one of the reasons that Proposal A was voted in. Those of us who actually voted for Proposal A may remember that we added 2% to sales tax. So as homeowners, we could see an $18 per thousand reduction on our property taxes. So we said, let's spread the wealth on taxes by adding 2% to sales tax, so that we can reduce our property taxes for living in the state of Michigan. All right, neighborhood enterprise zones. 152 neighborhoods in the city of Detroit are part of the neighborhood enterprise zones. If you purchased a home after 1997, you can receive a reduction. You can see a reduction in your millage rate. What it does is split your tax bill into two parcels because the land cannot see a reduction on what's called a special act. But the special act parcel, which is generally the highest value parcel, which is the structure, you will see a cut of 50% on the city and county millage rates. Not on the entire millage rates, but on the city and county portions, you'll see a 50% reduction. Senior citizen solid waste fee, $65 and older, $40,000 or less household income. If you're a senior, you can see a solid waste reduction. And once you apply for it, it actually stays on your property until you sell it or you leave the property. Disabled veterans exemption, which is great. It is a new change in the state law last year, allows for the disabled veterans exemption to remain permanent on the property. It is not income-based. The disabled veteran just needs to have one of three categories in terms of a rating from the Department of Veteran Affairs, either 100% service-connected disability, a special adaptive housing, meaning that they have maybe put a wheelchair ramp in your home or updated for a handicap accessibility inside the home, and then or being considered individually unemployable. And this would be on your ratings letter from the Department of Veteran Affairs. And you complete the Form 5107, provide the ratings letter, and once approved, it remains on the property, and if not just for you, it is also passes on to the unremarried surviving spouse. It goes along also to the unremarried surviving spouse. And one other thing that the law did is it also allows now the unremarried surviving spouse to take it to a new property if they so choose. If they decide they don't want, they want to buy another property because they don't want to live in the property that you may have lived in together, they can buy a new property, and that exemption can be transferred to that property as long as the spouse remains unmarried. And then the Michigan Homestead Property Tax Credit, again, talks to your tax preparer about the Michigan Homestead Property Tax Credit. This is actual cash dollars back into your pocket. And then the City Detroit Plan Ahead program allows you to pay towards in February. You can start paying on your taxes for the current year in February, and allows you to pay a monthly payment so that when you actually get the bill in July, which will be due in August, you're already halfway there. So you actually can continue to make monthly payments, and you don't have to worry about trying to pay this large lump sum in the middle of August, which can actually sometimes be a burden. I know I hate seeing my bill and when I get it and I work there, right? So the reality is I pay, a equal amount every month so that when I get my bill, I'm already halfway there, and I can just continue to make those equal monthly payments, and it's not really a burden, right? So, what I'm going to do, Council Member, I'm going to bring it back to you, and I will wait and answer any questions that anyone may have at the end, because I want to get Treasurer Sabri on, because there may be some relevant things that he talks about that you may have, our community may have questions about for both. Right.
Let's give Mr. Donnell a round of applause. So as we get the computer set up for Treasurer Sabri, because he's joining us virtually, I am just going to share a few updates with you all about different activities that are coming up. So just want to remind everyone that we have a presidential primary coming up. Do you all know that? So the presidential primary is on February 27th. However, we have early voting that is taking place now. We have 2 locations in District 4 where you can vote today. Not today anymore, tomorrow you can vote. We have 2 sites, one at Baldock Park. There is a, I don't even know what it's called, the little colorful house facility at Baldock Park. I believe they used to be storage for the General Services Department. But you can go there, it's near the sled. You can vote there, or you can also vote at Wayne County Community College's Eastern Campus if you'd like to vote prior to February 27th. And then also just want to make sure everyone is aware that February 23rd, which is Friday, is the deadline for the Neighborhood Beautification Grant. This is, I believe, the final year that the grant will be offered. So if you would like to work with a community organization to beautify a lot or 2 or 3 in your community, you can apply for up to $15,000 and receive the Neighborhood Beautification Grant. On Saturday, February 24th at 4 p.m., we are hosting a water town hall. We hosted a water town hall probably 18 months ago. And so we've been working very hard to make sure that we are improving our water infrastructure to ensure that we don't have the situation that we had in June 2021, where numbers of people throughout District 4 had backups in their basements. We will have a number of different people there giving you information on what they're doing to improve the system. We have some programs, the Basement Backup Protection Program that has been expanded into additional neighborhoods in District 4. So we want to make sure everyone comes out, that you apply, that you please apply. I've been working hard trying to make sure they add additional neighborhoods, but we want to make sure that District 4 residents apply because we were the hardest hit district. And so if you live in, it's essentially two different programs. So the Detroit Water and Sewage Department had their basement backup protection program that was in 5 neighborhoods. Morningside, East English Village, Cornerstone Village, Moross Meringue, and what's my 5th one? And then now we have the CDBG-DR, which is the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Basement Backup Protection Program that added the West End, Riverbend, and Jefferson Chalmers was the first round. Okay, somebody's going to charge this to my head. And there's another neighborhood in District 4, but if you all come to the Water Town Hall on Saturday, you'll get all of the information and learn how to apply. The services have expanded for the CDBG-DR and for a portion of the Detroit Water and Sewage Department's program, where we have limited resources, but for anyone whose sewer line has become disconnected from the city's main line, and there are tens of thousands of houses in the city of Detroit whose line has started to fall off from the city's main line, there will be resources to dig up backyards, to reconnect the line, to replace the line, and that is for anyone with the Community Development Block Grant Basement Backup Protection Program who's at 80% AMI or less, and currently 80% AMI for a household of one is about $53,000. So the income threshold is a little higher than we've known it to be in the past. So please join us February 24th, Saturday. It will be at Mount Pleasant Missionary Baptist Church on Moross 21150 Moross. Again, that's at 4 p.m. So Senator Chang will join us, Director Gary Brown, and representatives to talk about the Basement Backup Protection Program, as well as someone from Homeland Security who will share information on the emergency allotment that has been provided for anyone who had a weather event that affected their home in August of last year. So August 2023, FEMA is providing some resources to address anyone that whose property was impacted last year. So all of that information will be available on Saturday. And then lastly, I just want to share with you all on March 7th, the mayor is presenting his budget to City Council. Again, that's March 7th. Last fall, the mayor's team had a meeting in District 4 and talked about priorities that District 4 residents were interested in seeing addressed during the budget. And a lot of it was around transit, which was interesting to me. There was not a lot of discussion about basement backups or flooding, but a lot of it was around transit, bus shelters, being able to provide transportation for individuals who are not able to get to medical appointments and things of that nature. So just improving transit, expanding qualifications for home repair, and better communication around that, as well as training programs. And so that is what was addressed. So if there is anything in addition to that that you all want to share with me, feel free to do so. All right, and then I am now going to turn it over to Treasurer Sabri. I see we have him here on the screen. Do we have Good evening, Treasurer Sabri.
Good evening, Council Member Johnson. And thank you, thank you for allowing me to appear up through Zoom. I had a couple of things at funeral home, visit, a family hour, and I have something later on this evening on the opposite side of the county. So I thank you for letting me participate through Zoom. I appreciate it. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm moving out of the way so I can give you the floor, and you can share with the residents about different programs that are available to help prevent property tax foreclosure. But we are here to receive any information that you have available to us, and then we will take some questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, first of all, greetings everyone that's in attendance. I wanted to thank you, Council Member Johnson, and also Mr. Donwell for all the work you did to help with the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund that we had for 2 years. This fund is now out of money, but it was able to get 6,200 people out of foreclosure and pay all of their delinquent taxes. $25.8 million is what we used. I was promoting the program so much more than the state even. They used to call me Mr. My Half. Yeah, that's what they said, that we Mr. My Half is trying to spend all the money. So I was trying to spend all the money in Wayne County. So that's what we did. We did our best, and we got 6,200 people out. That money's gone. So what are we doing this year? We have payment plans that are available. And if you own your home and live in your home, you're an owner occupant, your interest rate can be reduced 6%. Your payment is lower than normal payment plans. And it's a 5-year plan. It's over 5 years. The only thing you have to do is make sure that you keep your regular taxes current. When your taxes come out, just pay your current taxes. Don't fall behind again. And you have 5 years to pay off your delinquency. That's the best plan for owner-occupied properties, residential properties. We also have a payment plan for others, which you put down a certain percentage. Right now, it's 50% of the amount. 2021 and prior taxes is what's being foreclosed this year. So if you owe 2021 and prior taxes, you have to get into a payment plan or pay the taxes in full to avoid foreclosure. If you owe 2022, my only advice is, if you can, pay the 2022 taxes before the end of February, which is a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks away, to avoid forfeiture fees and more interest. But if you're not able to do that, you're not going to get foreclosed, but you're going to end up spending, if you owe 2022 taxes, you're going to end up spending more money through interest and penalties. So that's the important thing. Now, if you have a payment plan, you have to keep it current. You have to pay the taxes, because some people get into a payment plan and they'll make 1 or 2 payments and then they'll stop. Or they for some reason, they'll fall off the payment plan and they'll say, well, I was in the payment plan. How would I get foreclosed? Well, you got to stay current. And if you can't stay current, contact our office. That's the main thing. If something's going on, you can contact our office. We also have a distressed owner occupant extension, which the law allows us to give an extension for a year to someone who's ill, if they're sick, and we can work with them. They have some documented illness. They can pay the taxes, and we can accommodate them, give them another year to pay their taxes. Last year, we went to Judge Fassard, a chief judge in the circuit court, and asked that all the owner-occupied properties get an extension so that people could apply for my half. So that was very good, because that helped people who would have been eligible for my half, could have been foreclosed. But the judge agreed, gave him extension to another year. So we don't know exactly if we're going to do anything like that this year, because we're always looking for ways to keep people out of foreclosure. But you have the payment plans, you have the extension, the owner-occupant extension for hardships. This is for hardships, any kind of hardship people have. Now, also, if you're a veteran, healthcare worker, or first responder, you can get into a payment agreement with no money down. We started this with veterans about 4 years ago, And then, or maybe 5 years ago. And then when COVID came, we added the healthcare workers and the first responders. And so they can get into a payment agreement. All they need to do is show their ID. And with military veterans, it's the DD 213, show that they were honorably discharged. They can get into a payment agreement with no money down. So this is important to remember. Also, we have the exemptions that Mr. Donwell spoke about. He's been tremendous in helping us get individuals out of foreclosure through the exemptions. If you're exempt, you can, and you have back taxes, this pay as you stay program will wipe out all of your back taxes. And the formula really takes about 80% of your taxes and extinguishes them. But if you live in Detroit, excuse me, the Gilbert Family Foundation actually pays the balance. So you don't have any balance at all. So like Mr. Donwell said, over 12,000 people have been taken out of foreclosure and given a zero balance of their taxes through the exemptions and the pay-as-you-stay program. So that's very important. If your income is low, and Mr. Donwell has the details of how different ways, different amounts that you have to make for so many people in your household, take it, apply for it anyway, even if you are not sure. You know someone that may be in trouble, tell them to apply for the exemption anyway. It doesn't hurt to apply because people may, sometimes people are proud, they don't want to ask for help. But if you're making, less money, then you shouldn't even be paying taxes. If you're under the guidelines, you shouldn't even be paying property taxes. So don't be ashamed to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help, especially as seniors who are on limited income and their income is not going to change. It's going to stay the same or go up just a little bit with Social Security maybe or something like that. But it's not going to change much. So if your income is low, you're not going to hit the lottery most likely or something. You can go apply for an exemption. And if you're exempt, then you don't have to pay property taxes. So this is your tax money that you've been paying all your life coming back to help benefit you. That's what it is. So don't be afraid to ask for that. I want to mention about probate court. There are a number of people who are living in homes of his deceased family members. They maybe the parent died or a grandparent died, left the home without doing any will or any probate matters. So now people just living there and they've been paying the taxes. But now they're in trouble. They've fallen behind on the taxes. And they come in and say, what can I do? We're encouraging anyone like that to apply for a probate estate, to file a probate estate, petition with probate court. And there are free attorneys available. Contacting our office, we can refer you to these free attorneys. Our office number is 313-224-5990. That's 313-224-5990. And our website, treasurer.waynecounty.com. It's treasurer.waynecounty.com. If you can't remember that, just put Wayne County Treasurer and go to our homepage, and you'll get everything you need right on our website. You'll find out how to make an appointment, but you have to make an appointment to come in. It's real simple. It works very well. We started it during COVID, and then we don't have long lines. The only time we have real bad lines is in the first few weeks in March, like right up to the deadline. And this year it's April 1st because March 31st is on a Sunday. So we have until April 1st to pay the taxes, get into a payment plan. So we'll have lines and crowds this year, probably in March. And we'll use the ballroom on the 8th floor of 400 Monroe to help people just to sit up there and wait until we can see them. But throughout the year, you have to make an appointment. The appointment system works well. We have less cashiers than we had before COVID, and people get in and out. They don't have to wait in line, and that works so much better. It works better for our staff. It works better for the taxpayers. It likes it. But in March, we have to do a few things differently. Actually, we worked Saturdays during March, and we'll probably do that again this year. And we have our Ask the Treasurer monthly call. We do that. Actually, this Wednesday is one Ask the Treasurer call we do on Zoom, but we do it in March. We did it like every week in March, every Wednesday, just so people can get online if they're not getting answers some other way. they can contact us. So we're encouraging people to go get the probate estate started, get the petition started. If you get a probate petition and you're facing foreclosure, you can get removed from foreclosure process just by filing the petition. So just file a petition, let us know, then your property can be removed from foreclosure. That's one way that the state law allows us to. Also, bankruptcy, automatically we have to take people out of foreclosure if they file bankruptcy too. But probate is important because we probably have about 500 people who are in bad shape right now with taxes, who are living in homes that they don't own. And if you're doing that, you can't take advantage of the lower interest rate. You can't take advantage of the exemptions. You can't take advantage of a lot of things, including getting home repairs from the city, because they require you be the owner and the occupant. So that's important. One other thing I want to talk about too is there's fraud alert. Don't fall for any fraud, people saying that they're collecting money for the treasurer. Nobody's authorized to collect money from the treasurer's office outside of the office. You can go to the kiosk and pay, you can pay online, you can send a check or money order, you can pay by phone, or you can make an appointment and come in the office and pay. But don't pay money to anyone else. I don't care what they say. People come up with all kinds of scams and try to take advantage of our community, especially seniors. So don't fall for those kind of scams. That's really what we have available right now. And the main thing is contacting the office. We have a number of people who owe taxes from 2016, 17, 18, 19. I'm talking about 7, 8 years of back taxes. And they have been able to get out of foreclosure because of the COVID, because of the MyHalf extensions. But this year, I don't know what we're going to do to help them. We've been targeting these individuals, trying to get them to come and see us. But there's a number of people who owe so much money that if they don't get in a payment plan, they're going to lose their property. And I don't want, if you know someone like that, they need to come and see us because we're trying to figure out what we can do to help them. And those are the individuals I'm worried about the most because we were able to help most people. We're over like 1,200 more payment plans right now than we had this time last year. So that's a good sign that people are taking advantage of the plans and are coming in and getting help. So we don't have MyHalf available, which was a huge tool. We used it as much as we could, but we're trying to work with people to keep them in their homes. We don't want the homes. We want to keep people in their homes, collect the taxes, and that's really what we focus on. So, Council Member Johnson, I just want to tell you thank you for your help. You did a lot of work last year getting people into the MyHalf program and out of foreclosure, and anything we can do to help, provide information to you, we're available to do that. So that really is all I have to say. I know there'll probably be some questions, and I'm available for those.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can we all give Treasurer Sabri a round of applause? That's not me, that's my twin sister. So I think it's important to first say thank you to Treasurer Sabri because he and his team had to create these programs for all of our residents to be able to apply for, just to make sure that we're providing assistance to residents as opposed to foreclosing on the property and going through that process. So thank you so much for all of the hard work that you've done over the years to create various programs that really help to do everything from eliminating the fees and just ensuring that people can stay within their household. And so now I would like to find out if anyone has any questions. If you have any questions for Treasurer Sabri, for Mr. Downwell, or for myself, please raise your hand, and we will come around with the microphone so that everyone joining us on Zoom can hear the question as well. Any questions in the room? We have a question in the back.
Right, Dennis, do you want to take that? Because we also have a few online, just so you know. And they asked their questions at like 5:30.
Right.
Is that
They-
Ms. Henderson?
They went first.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Natalia Henderson,
good
lifelong
evening.
Detroiter. What was said? Okay. I want me to talk. Okay. Natalia Henderson, lifelong, actually resident of District 4. But I am proud homeowner, grew up in my childhood home. District 4, ended up purchasing my first home in District 4 as well. Purchased my first home when I was 22, so very young. I figured I couldn't be about doing the work if I wasn't a part of that process. Recently in November, I left my home, I went out, and I decided to look back at my cameras, and to my surprise, I have a nice little yellow slip, which was a foreclosure notice. I am blessed to say all of my mortgage payments had been paid, which meant my taxes had also been paid. So that was a problem for me. I then reached out to my mortgage company to try to see where the issue, lied. And I figured I'd pay them, so I let them do the legwork. Great. They get back to me. They say, hey, we reached out to the treasurer's office. We got sent around in these loops, and we're really not getting any answers. They looked online. They were not able to find what I was taxed for the previous years and to try to troubleshoot how this issue happened. Ended up going back and forth, jumping through hoops. The process was absolutely too complicated to get a very simple answer. So I feel as though there needs to be some process improvement, Treasurer Sabri, to make the process of just navigating what went wrong much easier. I got a foreclosure slip for, I guess, an error on my mortgage company's end of $75.28. To think that I would have been displaced out of my home for $75 is absolutely absurd. We got to do better. I had to take myself and step out of my shoes and look at, what if I'm a single woman, no kids. I think about my seniors, neighbors that live behind me who I'm always assisting, who may not be able to navigate the process as I did. I think about my other neighbors who have multiple children in the home, which they have more things on their docket than to be able to navigate through this process. It should not be that complicated. It got remedied. Do I know if it's truly remedied? I don't know. But that's an issue. Outside of that, the assessor's office, when I initially purchased my home, I filed my PRE, just to realize that it had never been filed. My taxes subsequently went up. Also, I was affected by the basement backups, which means my insurance also went up. So that year following, my mortgage as a whole went up 35%. What if I couldn't pay that? I could, but it took a chunk out of my income to be able to still survive. So we got to do better at making sure that these processes are simple, making sure that we're making it user-friendly, making sure we're in the digital age. I should have been able to pull up my tax statements online. So just some suggestions to our assessor's office, to our treasurer, that we can do more, we can do better. We're wondering why Detroiters are leaving the city. This is why. It's hard. I'm not only paying my bills in the city, but I'm paying a premium cost to live here. That's all.
Well, thank you very much. I agree with you. We can always do better. What you described to me is really a simple matter. And I don't know who you were talking to or who your mortgage company was talking with, but I would love to know. But it's not that complicated to tell you why you owe the taxes. The other thing about the $75 is that every year I remove all properties, owner-occupied properties that owe less than $1,000. And so you wouldn't have got foreclosed. But nevertheless, we have to send you a notice if you owe $10. Because if you don't do that, that's, the state law requires that anybody that has a balance gets a notice could get foreclosed. So that's the reason why we do it. The other thing is we get bills from the city, which we complain about for, vacant lots or houses, $10, $5. And it costs us at least $2,000 or $3,000 over the period of time between the time we receive the taxes and the time we have to foreclose. So we start sending those back to the city because it's costing us more money to process the foreclosure than the taxes are owed. So I agree with you. The processes should be improved, but I would love to get the information from your property so I can check and see that your problem has truly been resolved. And I'm trying to find out why it took so long to fix it.
And
So if you can share that with maybe Council Member Johnson, and send it to me, I can look it up.
we will certainly do that, and we'll work with the assessor's office as it relates to the PRE, because that's something that's extremely important. When you file your principal residence exemption, it says to the city, to the assessor's office, that your property is owner occupied and that it's
Right.
not a rental property. And there's a difference in the tax rate that you pay as well. So, Ms. Henderson, we should certainly talk about that, and we'll elevate that to the assessor's office. I see hands, I see Karen.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to hop over to an online user. And so Yolanda Peoples says, I get 2 tax bills for my single-family home, but I don't own a lot or additional property. Can I please have the bills combined 2023 moving forward? Is that possible?
That's an assessor's issue. Mr. Donwell might be able to give you better information on that if it's from the city. They can combine parcels. There may be Mr. Donwell may be one of those parcels that has the what we would call not exemption, but a
NEZ.
I'm trying to think of the name of it. NEZ, a neighborhood enterprise zone. Yeah,
So
it might be one of those. So you may want to describe it. Yeah.
So what we're going to do, Treasurer Sabri, is we're going to find out who that is, because it actually may cost her more if they get combined. So we'll get to the bottom of what it is. And I mentioned this earlier. Neighborhood enterprise zone actually has to, by law, split the land and the structure apart, because the structure is what sees the benefit of the reduced tax rate. It cuts both the city and county millage rates in half. But it cannot be done if they're combined. It has to be done under a special act. So it's PA 147.
But you know what, Mr. Donwell, I want
Yes.
to mention something too. There's a lot of times people have 2 parcels. They might have a lot and a house, or they might have the NEZ, and they don't know there's 2 bills. They might just ignore one, or they think, I don't really have 2 bills. They think the house and the lot's combined. Then they end up getting a foreclosure notice for the lot or the house because it's not combined. But it can be combined in the assessor's office. And we end up taking a lot of properties out of foreclosure every year when we find out that there's an adjacent lot to a house. We don't foreclose on those because we know if the people knew that they had 2 parcels, they would have paid the taxes. They just, sometimes they don't know that they have 2 bills. And that's important to check too.
Absolutely, Treasurer. And as an added note, if it is a lot next door to your home that you own, a vacant lot, I would also recommend that you get it combined to your home so you can have that reduced to 1 lot. And you'll also receive the benefit of a smaller tax rate on that lot because it'll now be combined to your homesteaded property.
On here.
Okay. Thank you. Our question is for Councilwoman Johnson. I think it was you that was talking about the sewage. Yeah, okay. Could you clarify, and you may have, and I missed it, the sewage, if your sewage had been disconnected, I think you said something along those lines. How do you know if your sewer has been, I'm not quite sure how this all come about, because I know I got some letters one time about connecting to some type of line with the city, and it was so much money a month, or you pay it yearly or something. Is that what you're referring to?
No, it isn't. I believe you're referring to the insurance. There was a letter that was mailed out to get insurance on your sewer line and your water line. That is something completely different. It is separate from the city, although I believe the Detroit Water and Sewers Department is encouraging people to sign up for it. But what I was referring to is the Detroit Water and Sewers Department actually has gone throughout the city and identified where your line, your sewer line that connects to the city's main line, where it may be disconnected. It may be offset by 10%, by 20%, but the city has received information that indicates all of the properties in the city that are no longer 100% connected to the city's main larger sewer line that takes all of our wastewater to the wastewater treatment facility. And so I'm not sure if they're going to send out a letter, and I can find that out just to let everyone know, but there are about 30,000 properties in the city of Detroit whose sewer line is offset some percentage from the city's main line.
Now, will they be sending something out to let the people who are affected by this know? We need to know.
Right, so I did ask Director Brown if he would send me a list of all of the properties in District 4, so I'll make sure our team follows up to get that list of properties in District 4 so we can certainly notify our residents.
Yeah, because, and I just one more point, because I've noticed in my basement an odor, not all the time, but sometime that smells to me like the sewer or something. It's not every day, it's not every week, but maybe once a month or once this odor, and I don't know if I should have somebody from the city come check and see, but I might be one of those 30,000 because I don't know where this odor is coming from.
Well, that may just be sewer gas. I'm no contractor, but it may be sewer gas, and you may need to pour water in your drains and make sure that there is a stop gap measure. The water usually stops the gas from penetrating into the house for you so that you don't smell it. I'll make sure I come talk to you. We have some additional questions online and some in the room.
Yes, so we'll do a few more online because we have about 12 questions online. The next question is from an anonymous attendee. Will the HOPE exemption be extended to include a person who doesn't meet current poverty limits, but still afford to pay due to court order obligations? Oh, so for example, bankruptcy, student loans, IRS debt, etc.
So in 2020, when the state provided certain benefits to the HOPE exemption or the MCL 211-7U, they also took away one of the Board of Review's greatest powers that it had, and it was the ability to deviate from the guidelines for substantial and compelling reasons. We are having conversations with the state and our state legislators of getting some type of revised change to the statute to give us that ability back in some form. But right now, the Board of Review does not have the authority to look outside of the guidelines established by the local governing body, which is City Council. And they require us to look at, the State Tax Commission requires us to look at things in a very, very, very specific manner.
Okay, thank you, Director Donwell. And so I'm going to ask the next question. Anthony Thompson, I believe your hand was also raised, so I'll read your question and then try to allow you to speak. So Anthony's question is, I still don't know how much my taxes are. I purchased my home from the land bank. I do have the deed, but it's still showing up with the land bank as the owner for the city of Detroit when it comes to the taxes. How can I get this corrected?
So one, you want to start by getting us your information along with the address. We'll do that offline. but I'm going to share a couple of things as it relates to purchasing any property from anybody. When you purchase a property from a non-related party, the following year, the property uncaps. So if you buy it from a government entity, the government doesn't charge itself for taxes.
Anthony, can you mute at the moment? Thank you.
So the government doesn't charge itself for taxes. So if you purchased the property last year, then it will uncap and a value will be placed on it this year. If you purchased it 2 years ago and there is no value on that property, then we need to look at it very quickly so you don't receive what's called a late uncapping, because at some point it will catch up and whatever taxes or whenever that transfer was supposed to occur, everything will be updated at that time. So let's get the information, let's find out what's going on with it so we can make sure that the property is added to the assessment roll correctly. But if you purchased it last year, it will not receive a bill until this year if you purchased it from the land bank.
Okay, Anthony, we can get your information offline, but was there anything you would like to add before we moved on?
Right, that was my question, because I didn't want to get any type of late fees, because I purchased this home in 2020 and it is owner occupied, and I just didn't want to get hit with something saying that I owe for 4 years when I've never received a bill since the date that I purchased,
So everybody that's listening, because I always love giving my number information out, but so you'll have my information and reach out to me in the morning and we can talk about your property. But my direct number is 313-628-2673. That's 313-628-2673. Or also shoot me an email tonight and I'll actually look at it tonight. The email is donwellw, D as in David, ONWELLW @DetroitMI.gov. donwellw@DetroitMI.gov.
I want to add something, Mr. Donwell, to that, is that, when we receive the taxes every year from the cities, those taxes that come over, what the city gives us is what we send out notices for. So what happens is, this person just mentioned, this situation happens a lot. People get tax bills from us showing 3 or 4 years of back taxes, get a pending foreclosure notice, and they never received a bill. So once the city straightens it out, once it goes back to the city, and all those penalties and interest gets removed as well. So just so people know that once the city says, okay, yeah, we should not have done this, or we didn't tell you, or we sent the bill to the wrong place, or if they remove the taxes, then we remove all the taxes and charges. But if the city just says, no, you got to pay the taxes, then that tax bill is going to stay with us. It's going to stay with us, and then they're going to have to pay it. And that's what I just wanted to make that clear. That we get what the city sends us, and until the city, because we advance the city the money when they turn over the taxes, we advance them the money, and until the city pays us back, we don't remove any taxes from a county tax bill. That's why I just wanted to clear that up.
Thank you for that. We're going to take a couple more questions, and then before you all leave, we actually have food in the gym for you all to partake. So before anyone else leaves, make sure you grab some food. Karen.
Hello. Hopefully mine's a really easy one to answer. So I didn't receive my 2022 winter and summer taxes, but I paid them online, and I didn't receive a receipt, but I did pay them. And I need to print something up. I need to print up the form that says winter and summer taxes and a receipt. I have on my bank statement, it says it, but I never received anything that said, hey, you paid it. And now it's cycled to 2023, so it was in fact, but I haven't been able to, I've been Googling around, how do I print up, the form that I should have received, the bill itself.
Did you write down my email? Shoot me an email. I'll email you back. If there's receipts there, I'll email them back to you.
Okay, Latisha Johnson. how do you know if your neighborhood is a neighborhood enterprise? I've been told that certain districts 4 is a neighborhood enterprise zone. This area is not, and then they tell me it is. So how do you determine that?
So actually, if you go to the City of Detroit website and search NEZs, you can actually see all of the neighborhoods, the 152 neighborhoods throughout the city where all of the NEZs are located. Perfect example, there is not all of, but part of Morningside that then connects over to East English Village. And then Outer Drive actually kind of sits in between. So there's 3 different NEZs between Morningside to East Outer Drive and East English Village from Mac going north. And then also on the east side, Marlboro Estates is part of a NEZH neighborhood. You also have Morgan Estates, the back end of Gray Haven, which is also NEZ territory. Jefferson Chalmers, and so there are several others in District 4. But you want to go to the City of Detroit website, and you can actually see all 152 throughout the city. And you can actually see the exact boundaries of each of those NEZ territories.
Hello? Okay, the next question is, how does structural damage or any kind of problems within the home affect insurance? I'm not sure, is that a question that you can answer?
Well, I'm not going to talk too much about insurance because it's a moving target and it's really based upon the insurance agency. They pick and choose what they want to do. They're private entities. So I would just simply say shop around to find the best price for the best coverage that you can afford.
Thank you. And then the next question is, what is being done to expedite the process to avoid blight when programs are unsuccessful? Land bank properties have usually gone too long without attention before they are available to the community. And that's from Lisa Williams.
Okay, we'll talk to Lisa Williams, but there are a number of different programs that the Land Bank has really looking to sell their properties as well as vacant land. But the city also has the Blight to Beauty program that has been working throughout the city to help improve on blight. So if there are particular areas, First Lady Williams, if you can share that with us and make sure that we're aware so we can get the Department of Public Works into the neighborhood to address blight. We are also taking the initiative to go throughout neighborhoods, throughout District 4 to identify privately owned properties and reaching out to the property owner to get them on track with rehabbing their house or reaching out to the Land Bank for a nuisance abatement lawsuit. But the Land Bank's goal is really to sell properties, to get them out of their inventory. And they have a lot of properties that have sat vacant and that continue to decay as a result of sitting vacant prior to them taking ownership of the house. So it creates a very difficult situation for the Detroit Land Bank Authority, but we are all trying to make sure that they're moving as quickly, as expeditiously as possible to sell those properties and get them out of the Land Bank's inventory.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Carlina, we're going to take one last question before we close out.
I was trying to find one relevant to this. Does the homeowner get the foreclosure notice, or does the occupant of the house get the foreclosure notice?
Okay, actually, both do. We do notify. We send it to the actual address where the people actually would be living there, if it's occupied, and we send it to the owner and any other interested parties that the title company comes up with who've had an interest over the last 40 years. So what happens, sometimes the occupants get the notice, a foreclosure notice, and they don't share it with the owner. The owner should already have a notice but they don't get that yellow bag taped on, they don't get the yellow bag. So when the tenants or occupants get the yellow bag taped on the door, a lot of times they take it and they don't share it with the owner. And if the owner's not paying attention to our mail, they don't pay attention and they don't realize the property is in danger of foreclosure. But we do notify the owner and the occupant.
And so now that's going to wrap us up this evening. We will make sure we get the questions that are online, and we'll be here in person to answer any additional questions that anyone has. But before we leave, I'd like for Pastor Knox to come up, and first just want to say thank you to him and the church. You all know that we go throughout the entire district, but we certainly couldn't do it without having community partnership in place where pastors, where property owners, business owners are willing to open up their doors and allow us to host our monthly meeting. And so we are greatly appreciative. We thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. An absolutely beautiful church. Of course, I've been here before. But we'd like for you to close us out. If you would please say grace as we go to the gym to partake.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Let's give it up for our Councilwoman. She is so gracious in coming out and making sure and ensuring that we hear about the opportunities to help our community and our neighborhoods. And, I'm a preacher, so, I always think about it, love thy neighbor as thyself. And it's so important that we do that to strengthen one another. So to have access to people that can help answer questions, real questions that real people are dealing with is important. It's not just a smoke show. This is real. And we thank God for you. I'm going to bless the food, and I'm going to give a quick blessing. Doesn't take God all day to bless anything. Father, we thank you today, God. We thank you for all that have attended, all that are watching through Zoom. God, we pray for our city that we love so much, our district. God, that there are going to be new opportunities coming to this district to begin to help the people and the constituents and the stakeholders of this great community, God. We pray for every household, God. We pray for peace. Let peace resonate in this place. And God, we ask you to bless the food we're about to receive. We give you thanks and praise. And as we leave this place whenever your presence, we ask for traveling mercy and grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
And so just so everyone knows, the food is in the gym, and we're going to have someone direct us to the gym. Okay, follow Pastor Knox. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening.